真意を心に口を閉ざせ。我らは歴史を紡ぐ者。大聖堂の響きとともに。Keep thy motives in heart with closed mouths. We are those who will weave history with the ringing of the great belfry. Have you ever thought about the origins of the symbol of One Piece? About Luffy's Mugiwara-boshi, the straw hat? Like really sat down to figure it out? It was over a year ago when I started working on a series of ideas that would eventually and organically weave itself together to become the Christmas piece video, the very first video I published on this channel. But during its development, I also ended up crafting various other theories that ended up being shelved and left to collect dust. One of those theories is what I'd like to share with you today. A theory about the origin story of the Straw Hat and Oda's inspiration for said story. Hello, Kusoland here. It took me a long time to get around to completing this video, but here we are today, finally. I really hope you stick around to the end and let me know in the comments below what you thought of it. Also, we hit our 1k goal. I asked for 1,000 subs and all of you over-delivered. Thank you so much to all of you who got involved by liking, commenting, subscribing, and even sharing. Now then, imagine for a moment an awful world where the world of One Piece never existed. Great. Now, what comes to mind when I say Straw Hat and One Piece? Well, you probably picture a hot summer's day and a girl, maybe in a flower field or a beach, wearing a One Piece dress, or if you prefer, a One Piece swimsuit. The straw hat itself is an object generally tied to the countryside and farmers. This hat is a symbol representing the average Joe, the common folk. Just like the straw hat, Luffy cares very little about your social status, the color of your skin, or even your upbringing. In One Piece, we can trace the hat's origins all the way back to Joyboy, who also wore the straw hat. So we can assume that there were actually quite a few successors of the hat between Luffy and Joyboy. But where did Joyboy attain his hat from in the first place? How did this hat actually come to be? Well, I believe that Nefertari D. Lili was the one who weaved the straw hat and gifted it to Joyboy, who was in fact her love. Wait. Oh my god. Seriously, some of you guys are way too eager to click off. As soon as anyone mentions romance, love, or anything outside of your bloody agendas, god damn, just chill. And look, I know what Oda said about romance, alright? But I also know what I'm doing. Honestly, I have proof so big it'll make Zoro's boobs look smaller by comparison. Just you wait. I am exactly 77.7% sure that I've actually figured out Oda's inspiration for the story of Joyboy and Lili, the star-crossed lovers, and I believe that it connects to this chapter cover right here. And I can promise you this, I have no interest in shipping any characters in this video. That's not what this video is about. Stick around and we'll learn some Japanese, talk about Pink, not the singer, we'll break down the lyrics of Bink's sake, and of course, we'll analyze the straw hat itself. Because this hat symbolizes the weaving of history and the connection of people and their inherited will, a reminder that we are all people living under the same sun. After all, One Piece is Hitotsunagi no Daihiho, the rope that connects all people. In Oda's One Piece, the theme of weaving is expressed into three main parts. The first expression of weaving in the story is obvious and expressed by the straw hat, the Mugiwara-boshi. Remember Wicker, Zoro's pocket GPS? Well, wicker in our world is the oldest recorded method of weaving used to make furniture and baskets and founded by the ancient Egyptians. Ancient Egypt is also the oldest known civilization to weave and wear straw hats. If you've seen my other videos, you'll know that I keep a very close eye on ancient Egypt, because every time I go down the rabbit hole of one of my theories, it leads me back to this cultural and historical wonder. In Japan, bamboo weaving was the method traditionally used to craft everyday items and has deep-rooted history. This is also demonstrated with the Amigasa village in Wano country, surrounded by a bamboo forest. Amigasa, if you didn't know, is a traditional Japanese straw hat associated with samurais, farmers, and travelers. It is conical in shape and weaved using the wicker method. Gasa, derived from kasa, means umbrella, so amigasa literally means weaved umbrella. So, umbrellas and straw hats are tied together. The second example of weaving in One Piece is demonstrated through textiles and fashion. Unlike a lot of other mangas, where characters barely get any wardrobe change, the characters in One Piece are consistently getting a complete makeover. One Piece even has various collaborations with fashion brands, including wedding dresses, which if you think about it is quite obscure for a shonen manga aimed at boys. Like Oda says he doesn't care about romance in his story because boys don't care about it, but then has the audacity to have this kind of collaboration and marries a real life Nami? Bro's clearly a romantic, ain't no way he's holding that shit in. And sure, you can argue that he doesn't want romance between the crew, but love is still a major theme in the story. Actually, let me vent here for a moment. It's frickin' Ginny, not Guinea. Literally makes my ear gag every time I hear the disrespect on Ginny. Right here. See, that's a G, not Gi. No one wants to see a goddamn Guinea, alright? Now, where was I? Oh right, so characters in the story have a lot of wardrobe changes, and Oda is very intentional with celebrating textiles and fashion, since these elements marry up very well with the symbolism of weaving. In the past, I even talked about the arabesque pattern on cloth, which has its origins in ancient Egypt, and how it's been used in the story time and time again. Oda has also created multiple in-world fashion brands like Papag's criminal brand, Dosco Panda, and its knockoffs like Dosco One Panda and Cyber Panda, and even incorporates various Easter eggs in his panels through the use of print design on clothes. Oh, which reminds me, completely unrelated, but since we're talking about weaving and apparel today, I thought screw it and made some totally legit and 100% original merch. I was inspired to call this label Bosco Santa, or BS for short. It's just for shits and giggles, and any similarities you may notice is completely by chance, but the merch is actually available for purchase if you want. You just gotta click here, and here, and then over here, because YouTube isn't updating my store correctly. But I mean, check out this apron here for instance. Rumor has it that it was even worn by a certain master chef. And these designs here, where Don is printed in katakana for no apparent reason, mwah, chef's kiss. These designs were actually super fun to make, so I hope you like them. Some insane person has already purchased a hoodie, so shout out to whoever that was. And I'm already motivated to make some more designs, so feel free to come back from time to time and check out the store. Now, back to the video. The One Piece, the rope that connects all people, the idea of interwoven fibers connecting all people. We see Paulie with his rope action and a character design based on a Hugo Boss model, and Nami who also has connections to sewing through the mending and alterations of the straw hat, or the I Am Lion dress from her childhood, Herodis who showed her the wind knot, or even the national treasure gifted to her in Zor, which was, for whatever reason, a One Piece dress. And this was through the Mink tradition of trading clothes with guests. Even the giant jack was a rope that connected the ancient city of Shandora to the symbol of their history, the Golden Belfry, which ended up being at the top of this rope. Rope imagery also tie into spirals, a symbol that is by far the most frequently used design element in the story. Just ask Tainted Moth, who recently updated an epic video dedicated to spirals and whirlpools. But anyway, another woven object heavily implemented in One Piece is silk, the cloth with a rich history and tied to the Silk Road in our world. The Silk Road was basically a network of trade routes that connected the East and the West. This trade route influenced the ideas, religions, economy, and politics around the globe through cultural exchange. My bet is that the Silk Road along with the Milky Way are the inspirations for the islands of the Grand Line, but that's honestly a video for another time, maybe a part 2 of this video. But we know that silk is a symbolism that Oda's been playing with from the very beginning, since silk is literally the name of Nami's prototype in the first edition of Romance Dawn. There's also the obvious connection to silk in Wano, with its residents wearing kimonos, a garment traditionally made from silk of varying grades. Even characters of godly, demonic, or ascended status in One Piece have ties to silk. The heavenly silk scarf known as Hagoromo, literally translated as feathered robe, are the floating scarves that we see with Shirahoshi and her brothers and mother, Luffy's Gear 4th, Gear 5th, the Nika form, Gorosei's Yokai form, and awakened Zoan users. In Japan, the Hagoromo is donned by supernatural beings, such as angels, demons, gods, ascended humans, and yokai. Traditionally, the silk gives them the ability to fly and is a powerful symbol in Japanese culture. The Hagoromo embodies the connection between the heavens and earth and is imbued with celestial qualities. Finally, the third and final expression of weaving in One Piece is in the figurative meaning of the word, which works in both English and Japanese. We are those who will weave history with the ringing of the great belfry. Warera wa rekishi o tsumugu mono, daishōrō no hibiki to tomoni. The interconnectedness of the past, present, and future, a woven history. I even harked on about how One Piece is somewhat of a never-ending story in my Dragon Piece video. There's also the interwoven nature of relationships between people. The One Piece is a rope that ties all people. A quote-unquote rope that ties all people together is our DNA. In One Piece, other than the Seraphims with their green blood, every single race from the dwarves to the ancient giants share the same blood divided into 5 blood types: X, F, XF, S, and SRH negative. Jinbei was able to donate his blood to Luffy on Fishman Island because after all, we are one. This is Oda's message to humanity and even Luffy's dream, which I explained in Christmas Piece. Oda and his goddamn godly storytelling. This Master Weaver combines different plots, characters, and events. Atenashi, atenashi, warai banashi. Never ending, ever wondering, our funny traveling tale. Warai banashi literally meaning laugh tale, with wara meaning laugh, but phonetically, wara, like in Mugiwara, also means straw. Intentional wordplay by Oda tying the beginning of One Piece, the Straw Hat, with its end, the final island. Laugh tale. So, I brought up a line from Bink earlier, but if we take a cursory look at this shanty that Oda put a lot of time and effort into developing, we see that there is a reference to a weaver village. Sayonara minato, tsumugi no sato yo. Sayonara minato, goodbye to the harbor. Tsumugi no sato, the weaver village. When we do a basic breakdown of this song, we realize that these pirates, who we can assume to be Joyboy and his crew, set sail from a weaver village to deliver Binks' sake to a single or multiple destinations. Though the tune and lyrics are whimsical, it actually describes a sad final farewell between Joyboy and a mysterious shadow left behind at Weaver Village. Te o furu kage ni mou a enai yo. The waving shadows will never meet again. The song is actually full of contradictions and other hidden details. If you'd like me to break down the whole song properly, let me know in the comments below. But the final line of never ending, ever wandering, and yet the contradiction is that there is in fact an end and a destination. Oretachi yukuzo umi no kagiri. We will set sail to the end of the sea. See, here's another example of why you shouldn't sleep on the Skypiea arc. Because in chapter 302, aptly titled Finale, a word literally meaning the last part of a piece of music, the Straw Hat crew upon defeating Enel arrives at Cloud End, a location which is the literal end of the White Sea, is where Luffy and co fall off, the end of the sea. If this particular scene isn't paralleled in some way at Laughtale, then call me fraud, I'll take the L. But what I'm trying to get at here is that I think that Binks' sake is a shanty describing the final time Joyboy and his crew set sail together. A final goodbye with the shadow in Weaver Village, because Joyboy knew that this was a one-way trip. The final voyage to deliver Binks' sake and then taking on Imu and his army in the finale. But where the hell is the Weaver Village that I keep bringing up? Well, as I already hinted at earlier, I'm guessing that it may have something to do with the Amigasa village in Wano. It's the only location that I can think of that has a strong association to weaving. The Japanese term used for weaver village in the song is tsumugi no sato, tsumugi meaning to spin thread or weave, and sato meaning village. But the thing is, tsumugi when written with another kanji is a type of lower grade silk used in kimono and worn by commoners like farmers and the lower class. So again, like the straw hat, a piece of clothing worn by the common folk. It was also left vague by Oda since the lyrics does not use kanji for tsumugi to allow us to know whether it's referring to weaving or the tsumugi silk cloth. In these cases, Oda generally means both and is intended as a wordplay. So, a wordplay that only works in Japanese used to describe a weaver village? Wano has to be the answer, right? There is also other clues of the shanty tying into Wano, with the bird drawing circles which may tie into the Kozuki crest, the 1,000 li sky with li being an old measurement system used in China and Japan, the tumultuous waves and weather described also similar to the waves and weather surrounding Wano. Finally, like the chapter titled Finale, with the ending of Skypiea being the panel where Luffy and co fall off the end of the sea, we also get chapter 1057 again aptly titled Shumaku, meaning the end, where again we have Luffy and co falling off the end of the sea. Now, we know that because of the flooding of the world during the Void Century, Wano likely looked very different back then to how it is now. Amigasa village may not have even existed back then. But remember Kinemon, who originates from Wano? His Fuku no Mi, clothes fruit ability seems quite obscure till you connect it back to Wano's link to weaving. Hawkins too, with his Warawara no Mi, the weave fruit ability, was also reintroduced in Wano. And Kuri Beach by Amigasa village, both Luffy, Ace and Big Mom all landed on this exact same beach by Amigasa village and began their adventures in Wano from there. And Amigasa is a village who weaves literal straw hats. These clues tell us that Oda is hinting at this location as being hella important and will tie into some great juicy lore. So the question then becomes, who was Joyboy waving to? Who was it that Joyboy could not meet again? Who was this mysterious shadow left behind? Well, if you haven't guessed it already, Joyboy was saying his final farewells to his love, Princess Lili of Alabasta. And so again, we find ourselves in a segment of the video where I discuss One Piece connections to ancient Egypt. Lili, the Princess of Alabasta, Alabasta being the in-world location based on this wonderful world heritage. In my Christmas piece video, I talk about how the secret reading of the initial D is Do. This was further substantiated recently with Cloudy Clover, who has the wordplay of Cloudo, meaning cloud, and Dokuro, meaning skull when you read the D as Do. Well, I also mentioned in that video that Nefertari D. Lili's wordplay would be read and reed, both of which tie into the symbolism of weaving. Reed is a common name for several tall, grass-like plants of the wetlands. Reeds of the plant Cypress papyrus were used to make one of the earliest forms of paper called papyrus. Ancient Egyptians even weaved everyday items such as sails, boats, cloth, ropes, baskets and sandals with these reeds. Another use of reeds was to make straw hats. As I mentioned earlier, ancient Egypt is the oldest civilization to weave straw hats, going all the way back to around 3000 BC. Reed hats were primarily used for sun protection. Given the hot climate of Egypt, people needed protection from the intense sunlight, especially those working outdoors, such as farmers, fishermen, and laborers. This also ties into Ace's reason for making the Amigasa hat for Oz Jr. And so, straw hats have their origins in ancient Egypt. Would it then be such a big jump to say that Lili, the Princess of Alabasta, was the one who originally gifted the straw hat to Joyboy? Now, while we're on the topic of Lili, if the shadow that was waving back in Bink's sake was in fact Lili, and if I'm also right about the Weaver village being Amigasa located in Wano, what do you think Lili's name would have been when she was living in Wano country? I'll give you a moment to think. Now, if you had said her name would be Oriri, 10 points. Women in Wano often get O added to the front of their names, Onami, Orobin, Otsuru, Otama, Otoko. However, if you had said her name would be Ori, 50 points. As seen with Linlin, her name was shortened to Orin in Wano instead of Orinding, which I suppose sounds like Ochinchin, which is not a good look because it means penis. But finally, if you had said Orihime, 100 points. L's are turned into R's in Japanese, and we add hime meaning princess in Japanese. Hime is already used for princess characters like with Hebihime, Ningyo-hime, Onihime, Otohime, and Utahime. But why have I been referring to Lili as the Princess of Alabasta? After all, we know very little about Lili so far, but what we do know for certain is that she was referred to by King Cobra as the Queen of Alabasta, not the princess. You see, I believe that when Joyboy met Lili, she was still the princess, not the queen, since Lili is a mirror to Vivi, who was also the Princess of Alabasta when Luffy met her. Now, I know what you're thinking. We really don't need One Piece to be about romance, even if it's in the name of the first chapter of the story, right? But we know that fairy tales have been on the forefront of Oda's mind since the very first version of Romance Dawn, because in this version, Luffy's boat was named Going Märchen, Märchen in German meaning fairy tale. Princess characters being rescued by heroes is a common trope in fairy tales like in Disney, but also in classic Japanese video games like with Super Mario, Dragon Quest, Final Fantasy, and Zelda. In a story like One Piece, swarming with princess characters, are you really telling me that you can't imagine romance or love being an element at the end of Luffy's adventure or during the Void Century? And you see, Princess Lili's name being Orihime in Wano is a bombshell of a clue from Oda about the end of One Piece, and it proves that romance is a key, because Orihime is the name of a character from an incredibly well-known Japanese folktale involving star-crossed lovers by the name of the Weaver Princess Orihime and the cowherder Hikoboshi. I mentioned earlier that tsumugi means to weave. A more common word for weave in Japanese is oru or ori, which is its noun form. Another reading for this kanji is shoku and shiki, incredibly fitting of course because Shiki wears a kimono outfit. And so Orihime literally means weaver princess, but hurry up and tell us a freaking story about her, they say. Why the bloody hell have you taken this long to get to the crux of the video, they say. Yeah, alright, settle down mate. Tanabata, literally meaning evening of the 7th, also known as the Star Festival or Hoshimatsuri, is a Japanese festival originating from the Kisi Festival in China. The romantic legend behind the Kisi Festival and the Tanabata is the story of Orihime, who is the Star Vega, and Hikoboshi, the Star Altair. Orihime, who made kimono and silk cloth for the gods, was known as the Weaver Princess, and Hikoboshi was known as the cowherder, and his name literally meant boy star. The couple both lived up in the clouds and stars and met and fell in love. The two were so in love that they both neglected their work. Orihime stopped weaving and Hikoboshi allowed his cows to stray all over heaven. Orihime's father Tente, the Sky King, known as the universe itself or the Heavenly King, was fond of his daughter Silk and so became incredibly angry about the couple neglecting their work. So angry in fact that he separated the lovers. He forced them to live on opposite sides of the Milky Way, which in Japanese is Amanogawa, literally meaning heavenly river. The lovers were only allowed to meet each year on July 7th, the 7th of the 7th month. A flock of magpies comes each year to form a bridge with their wings, so that Orihime could cross the Milky Way, the heavenly river, and meet Hikoboshi for that one day. So, Lili's alternate name is Orihime, straw hats are tied to ancient Egypt, and a weaver princess would be a perfect character to have weaved the iconic straw hat in the first place. But how does the cowherder Hikoboshi fit with Joyboy other than the fact that Hikoboshi is literally the boy star? Well, we know that Luffy and Joyboy are likely to be incredibly similar. Like how Vivi is a mirror of Lili, Luffy is likely the direct mirror of Joyboy. And Luffy throughout the series has again and again and again and again and again and again been tied to cows. Even the very first panel we get in chapter 1, Romance Dawn, was fucking cows. I literally can't make this up, there's no bullshit here. Cow herding or farming is definitely a job of the common folk, so perfect too that he was given a straw hat by Lili. Like, here you go Joyboy, you're working outside all day, here's a hat to keep you safe from the sun and rain. And why do you think I gave Joyboy horns in the first place? Bull horns are a perfect way to tie in the cows, and as a bonus, labeling of Joyboy and his people as the devils. Even the buildings in the world of One Piece often have horns in their designs, most likely foreshadowing a prominent figure in the Void Century who donned them. Oda has also explicitly stated that cows look fab with their horns, and that one day he wished that he could grow them. He goes on to say that since the dawn of time, men have always wanted horns. It's normal to have horns, they look so manly after all. And let's not forget that Tanabata is a star festival. Stars are one of the integral elements of One Piece, with Vegapunk referencing the Star of Vega like Orihime, Frankie and Vegapunk and their star icons on their inventions. Gorosei, the 5 elder stars. Usopp and his attacks, which all end in Boshi or Hoshi, meaning star. Shirahoshi meaning white star, and her brothers also have stars in their names. The supernovas of course being another star reference. Luffy's Nika form attack, Gomu Gomu no Star Gun, whose kanji is white star gun. And of course Nika is the sun god, the sun being our solar system star. Lodestar Island, literally the final recorded island. And it wouldn't be a Kusoland video at this point if I didn't mention Dragon Ball. During the Tanabata festival, Japanese people write their wishes on pieces of paper and hang that paper on bamboo trees in the hopes that their wishes come true. The connections of the Tanabata and bamboos makes a lot of sense too, because quite literally, the 2 fashion brands that Oda decided to include in the world of One Piece were Disco Panda and Criminal, the logos of which are the bamboo eating panda and a star. But linking pandas to Tanabata through bamboo? You might be like, that's a bit of a stretch. Shut up. All you need to do is look at this chapter cover right here. A cow herder sits atop a panda cow eating bamboo. If you want more panda lore and how it ties into the One Piece, check out Star Knight and Alexa's video about Panda Man. That man put so much time and passion into that video, it really deserves more love. The view count is seriously criminal. And there's also the detail of how Orihime and Hikoboshi were separated by the Milky Way. In the One Piece world, the islands of the Grand Line and the dots of the empty throne feels like a reference to our world's Milky Way. Even the giant wall of the Red Line feels like an homage to the separation of the lovers. And Skypiea, with its Milky Road, Lovely Street, and people who live up in the clouds like with the Tanabata lovers. We even have volume 32 of the Skypiea arc, sneakily titled Love Song, even though the kanji here reads The Singing Voice of the Island. Even the chapter cover for 298, also titled Love Song, illustrates the side story of Moda the milkmaid. Fricking cows again. I cannot make this up. Oda has been cooking us a first-class banquet, and we have been missing out. Even Isa can literally mean it's love, and the only character in the whole of One Piece with the same birthday as the Tanabata is Lucky, another sky dweller. Flip the characters around and you get Kira, the onomatopoeia for stars or gems twinkling, and this was actually demonstrated by the Kira Kira no Mi, Jozu's diamond fruit ability. And diamonds of course are a girl's best friend, and very much tied to romance and weddings. Interestingly, the Tanabata festival also ties into my Christmas piece video. Tanabata is a summer festival, while Christmas is a winter festival. Kisi, the origin of Tanabata, is widely considered the Chinese Valentine's, whereas Christmas is the Japanese Valentine's. Tanabata grants you wishes and involves bamboo trees, and Christmas also ties into wishes and involves a Christmas tree. Tanabata is a star festival, and Christmas also ties into the Star of Bethlehem and Christmas tree star toppers. Devil fruits are literally fruits holding the manifestations of people's dreams, hopes and wishes, right? So wouldn't it then tie into the wishmaking of both Christmas and Tanabata? There's even a nice connection between Christmas, a winter celebration, and star-crossed lovers in the Wano arc. Black Maria, whose hobbies include boxing and romantic relationships of all things, plays a koka song with a Japanese string instrument called shamisen. On a snowy night, two who wish to be united, but could never be together, at last they meet beneath the moonlight. What a thrill. I really do think that Oda is alluding to the story of Joyboy and Lili here, but do let me know if you have other ideas of what the song could be about. Now, at this point, if you're still saying that these connections of Tanabata to One Piece are just delusions and Oda really isn't thinking that hard, shut up. Ori, as I mentioned, means to weave. Well, we have the marine officer Hina, whose ability is the Ori Ori no Mi, the cage fruit ability. In this case, Ori actually means cage, not weave, and yet Hina has an attack called Awasebaori, literally meaning lined kimono feather cage, referencing both a cage and weaving through kimono. Interestingly, she is also often seen in Alabasta alongside Vivi, like in episode 777. 7, if you remember, being the number associated with Tanabata. Hina was born on March 3rd, which in Japanese is a Hinamatsuri festival. Hinamatsuri is also known as Dolls Day and Girls Day. During the festival, Hina dolls are displayed in homes on a multi-tiered doll stand which depicts a wedding scene. Again, romance. We even have Django and Full Body who are in love with her, an unnecessary detail by Oda until you connect the dots. Even Hina's hair color is a great Easter egg, since Hinamatsuri used to be called the Peach Festival or Momonosekku, which is why her hair color is pink. Pink, like with sakura petals, is actually an important color in One Piece, since it's the baby of red and white, the colors of Luffy. But also because pink is the color commonly associated with love, so hold that thought. Hinamatsuri and Tanabata are two of the 5 seasonal festivals called Gosekku that are held on the specious dates of the lunar solar calendar. The dates of these 5 festivals are all doubles: 1-1, 3-3, 5-5, 7-7, and 9-9. 1st of January is New Year's Day and Ace's birthday. 3rd of March is Hinamatsuri, and is also the birthday of the aforementioned Panda Man, since the Japanese word for bamboo leaves is sasa, the Goro Aose for which is 3-3. 5th of May is Boys' Day, now known as Children's Day, and also a day to express gratitude towards mothers. Ironically and incidentally, this date is the birthday of a motherless protagonist, Monkey D. Luffy. 7th of July is Tanabata and Lucky's birthday, as we've been talking about. 9th of September is Kiku no Sekku, the Chrysanthemum Festival, and is Kiku's birthday since Kiku means chrysanthemum. So although Hinamatsuri and Tanabata are different festivals, Oda has made efforts to connect them closely in various ways using Officer Hina. Both festivals also share the same theme of romance, with Hinamatsuri depicting a Heian period wedding, and Tanabata depicting star-crossed lovers, and its origins being referred to as the Chinese Valentines. Oda has stated that there is to be no shipping amongst the Straw Hats, and that One Piece isn't about romance, which actually misguides readers into thinking that romance or love will not come into play at all. But the man has actually also told us that he gets bored extremely easily, which is why he dabbles in different genres of storytelling in One Piece to keep it fresh for himself. We've already had horror, thriller, action, sci-fi, mecha, musical, gangster, comedy, silent, noir, hero, disaster, sport, genderbender, tentacle, fraternity. Wait, what were we talking about? But you think Oda will simply discriminate against romance? Hopefully we have all moved beyond the stage of denial, and we can all see that romance and love wouldn't be such a bizarre theme to have in the story. But the thing is, I'm just getting started. So, let's get on with it, shall we? One Piece is a shonen manga. It's very much not a shoujo manga for girls like Sailor Moon, and certainly not a slice of life manga depicting a romanticized version of a Japanese high school life filled with teenage angst, first love, and the bittersweet memories of youth. However, there really are countless examples of romance and love in One Piece. Alvida and her ship Miss Love Duck, Hancock's infatuation with Luffy, Zoro and Hiyori, Usopp and Kaya, Chopper and Milky, Aladdin and Praline, Rayleigh and Shaki, Sabo and Koala, Kuma and Ginny, Beej and Chiffon, Gotti and Lola, Wapo and Cinderella, and the mysterious wedding attended by Shanks. Chocolate is tied to romance through Valentine's. Pudding and Lola, who happen to be our allies, are the past and current ministers of chocolate on Whole Cake Island, and happen to have also found love, unlike Big Mom, who married for political gains. Lily is also tied to romance in other ways, like through Amazon Lily and the love sickness only contracted by the empresses of the Kuja tribe, plus Hancock, the current empress with the Mero Mero ability, who is in love with Luffy. The only other character also named Lily in the story wore a heart-shaped belt buckle. Emu, who has stated that he longs for Vivi, and has the room of flowers full of lilies. Vivi the Mirror of Lili, with multiple clues about a future wedding involving Vivi and Emu. And then we have Dressrosa, the island known as the Land of Love and Passion, whose symbol is the sun. We see a treasure trove of connections to Orihime the Weaver Princess and Hikoboshi the Cowherder. In regards to Orihime and weaving, its name for starters being Dressrosa, meaning pink dress. Pink again. Doflamingo's birdcage made of string, remembering that Ori means both to weave and cage, and the heavenly demon's other attack, the Kumo no Sugaki, meaning spider web, which also fits since Kumo, meaning spider, is a creature which weaves, but also ties into Tanabata because Kumo also means cloud. Anyway, we also see Luffy with his godly form and donning the Hagoromo, the heavenly silk scarf, for the first time through Gear 4th. There's also Wicker, as in wicker, as I mentioned earlier. Leo's Nui Nui no Mi, the sewing fruit abilities. Diamante's Hira Hira no Mi, the cloth and flag fruit abilities. The jacket fruit abilities of Kelly Funk. And the godly Kenamingo using the clothes fruit ability throughout the arc. All of which were random as funk until you thread them all together. As for Hikoboshi, Dressrosa is by far the arc with the most references to cows, such as Corrida Colosseum, with corrida meaning bullfight in Spanish. Bartolomeo wearing a nose ring like a cow, the various helmets in the Colosseum with horns on them, Diamante's attack, Bastille, buffalo, and fighting fish. And when we lean into the connections of Joyboy the sun god, the late princess of Dressrosa, Scarlet, who wore a sun hat and a one piece, and worked in a sunflower field, whose lover became a toy wearing a hat with the word soul meaning sun written on it. It is also the location where the Meta fire fruit ability was reborn. Dressrosa is also the arc where we see a murder of crows that Sabo rides on to return to the Revolutionary Army. Another useless detail to you remember the flock of magpies in the Tanabata story who make a bridge for the two lovers each year using their wings. And Tanabata is the Star Festival celebrated on July 7th, so 7-7. Volume 77 titled Smile is literally the Dressrosa arc, with Pika donning a star helmet in the middle here. Pika is also an onomatopoeia for stars twinkling like the Pika Pika no Mi. It is also the volume where we get the lore about Law's Ope Ope no Mi shaped like holy crap a heart, the flashback of Senor Pink and his wife, where Leo rescues Princess Mancheri, and where Sai and Baby 5 get engaged. In case you're wondering, chapter 777 is when Kuros and Rebecca avenge Scarlet and is titled Zoro and Pika. I honestly can't make this up. Volume 75 is another reference to stars in the birdcage, and in it we have a chapter titled Hoshi, meaning star, in which God Usopp, who is often associated with stars anyway, is given a 5-star bounty. Star imagery is hidden all over this arc, like with Fujitora and his meteor, which in Japanese is Ryusei, or flowing star. Or Cavendish, who calls himself a big star, has star prints and has Hakuba with his star marking. And seriously, I could go on and on about all the other star imagery in Dressrosa, but we really have to stop at one point. Dressrosa really is absolutely riddled with Tanabata references, but let's bring it back a bit. Lili is the Weaver Princess who gifted Joyboy with a straw hat she weaved herself. Joyboy, who is perhaps a farmer wearing a straw hat, a universal symbol of the common folk and farmers. Joyboy, the sun god, representing Hikoboshi, also known as Natsu Hikoboshi, meaning summer boy star. If that's not a reference to Joyboy, I don't know what is. Bink's Sake, a song illustrating a final goodbye between Joyboy and Lili. Perhaps the reason Lili stayed behind was because she was expecting a child. Does the current world of One Piece have a descendant of these two star deities? Hikoboshi and Orihime are known as Altair and Vega in English. These two stars, along with a third star called Deneb, makes up what is known as the Summer Triangle. Perhaps Deneb, also known as one of the brightest stars in the night sky, will one day give us a clue to a hidden heir or a group of descendants. Just throwing it out there, but what if the kid's name was Nerona di Nebu, since Nebu was ancient Egyptian for gold? And if my illustration of Joyboy and Lili were accurate enough, and they did in fact have red and white hair, then maybe the descendants have pink hair, or associated with pink at least. I mean, Team Pink are seriously goated if you hadn't noticed already. And here's the kick in the balls. Luffy's hometown and the very first location of the story is Fuchsia Village, meaning windmill, but it is also a wordplay on Fuchsia Village. Clearly, Oda was inspired by the Pokemon games, which were released like a year earlier, since they also have location names based on colors. Look, I told you pink would be relevant, right? And I mean, in my Pokemon Piece video, I was talking about how Momotaro, the Peach Boy, was integral to One Piece also. Here's another thought. If we think back to Luffy's Gear 4 forms, we can see that the Straw Hat never changes size with him. So here's my headcanon. What if Joyboy was a demi-giant who preferred to make himself smaller to be at eye level with Lili and the other regular-sized humans? A direct opposite of Luffy, who looked up to giants and gigantified himself. And so, Lili originally gifted Joyboy with a straw hat, which fits his regular human-sized form, but before Joyboy left for his final battle with Emu, Lili gifted him with a second straw hat which would fit his original larger scale. This second hat is what Emu ended up keeping as a trophy when he defeated Joyboy in their fated battle. And this chapter cover here, with Shanks wearing the straw hat while riding a panda cow, this illustration being the clue that Oda took heavy inspiration from the Tanabata story and the Star-Crossed Lovers. There's also this house here pointing towards a village that is even used again in the inner cover of volume 19, along with Panda Man of all characters. But more importantly, who is this man? No, really, we assume it's Shanks, but is it? We only assumed all this time because of the red hair and the straw hat. But there's probably a reason that this man is facing away from us. We don't actually see Shanks' iconic scar. What if, all this time, Oda has been flaunting an unbelievable character to us in plain sight? What if this man was Joyboy, the first ever pirate? But if you still can't believe that One Piece will tie into the Tanabata story through Joyboy and Lili, then here's the last straw. Luffy's birthday is May 5th, so 5-5. Vivi's birthday is February 2nd, so 2-2. 5-5 and 2-2, together we get 7-7, as in, ladies and gentlemen, the numbers don't lie. The Tanabata festival held on the 7th of the 7th month. Luffy and Vivi together equals Tanabata, the Star Festival. And that's all folks. Remember to sub to the channel and stick around for some juicy bonus content if you want. Kusoland out. Peace and love.